Good afternoon. It is Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024. Today was our monthly food distribution, and in cooperation with Caring Ministries and assisted by our ministry partner, Iglesia Bautista Cristo Bien, yesterday we had 12 volunteers pack boxes. Today we had 6 volunteers help carry boxes to cars. We packed 72 boxes. We distributed 72 boxes of food, helping an estimated 32 families or about 120 people. It was a very, very hot day for food distribution today. In the passage of scripture we're looking at today, we come in on Jesus' trial, where they're accusing him, and he just being himself. In Mark chapter 14, verses 60 to 64, and I'm reading from the New Living Translation, second edition, it says, "Then the high priest stood up before the others and asked Jesus, 'Well, aren't you going to answer these charges? What do you have to say for yourself?' But Jesus was silent and made no reply. Then the high priest asked him, 'Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?' Jesus said, 'I am. And you will see the Son of Man seated in the place of power at God's right hand and coming on the clouds of heaven.' Then the high priest tore his clothing to show his horror and said, 'Why do we need other witnesses? You have all heard his blasphemy. What is your verdict?' 'Guilty,' they all cried. 'He deserves to die.'" Talk about a court case that had its decision made before anybody walked into the courtroom. And so, what do you have to say for yourself? And Jesus was just quiet. It didn't matter what he said. Their minds were made up. He was not going to change anyone's mind. So he asked specifically, "Are you the Messiah?" And Jesus said, "I am." And that recalls the words of God to Moses at the burning bush in Exodus chapter 3, when God says, "I am that I am." And then Jesus tells him, "You will see me seated in power at God's right hand." You'll see heaven. You're not going to like it when you do. And then you're going to see me coming back on the clouds of heaven. Jesus reminds us that there will be a visible return, that we will see the return of Jesus coming on the clouds of heaven. Well, the high priest heard that, and he immediately understood the reference. And he was just horrified. How dare this itinerant carpenter claim to be the Son of God? Why, it's preposterous. There's no way that this one could be the Son of God. And he was angry. And the whole crowd shouted out, "He's guilty. He deserves to die. How dare he claim to be the Messiah?" Interesting thing about these folks, they spent centuries expecting the Messiah, and then when he did come, they refused to recognize him. You know, if you're looking to condemn, Jesus may not be who you expect. If your mind is already made up about all things God related, then Jesus may not be who you expect. These men wanted blood. They wanted to hurt Jesus for ruining their reputation. And they refused to recognize what God was doing. God is doing a great work in our lives and in our civilization. But if our hearts are so full of bitterness and condemnation, we may not see what God's doing. My hope and prayer for you this week is that you may open your hearts and minds to see what God is doing and join God in the wonderful redemptive message that he has for this world. God bless you.